when miners, expecting to uncover nothing more than rock and dust, stumble upon something truly unexplainable. Deep underground, in a mine untouched for centuries, a group of workers broke through a wall and found a hidden chamber. At first, they thought it was just another abandoned section of the mine, but then their flashlights caught something strange, an object that didn't belong there. A coffin. It wasn't just any coffin. The material was unlike anything they'd ever seen. Smooth yet aged, metal yet somehow organic. No one could figure out how it ended up there, sealed away in the depths of the earth. The air around it felt heavier, the kind of weight that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Some of the miners hesitated, sensing something wasn't right. But curiosity always wins, doesn't it? With cautious hands, they pried the lid open, expecting to find a body long turned to dust. Instead, what lay inside sent shivers through the group. The figure was perfectly preserved, as if they had just lain down moments ago. Not a skeleton, not decayed, just untouched by time. Their skin had an unnatural pallor, smooth yet lifeless. The strangest part? Their clothes didn't match any known historical period. No records, no explanations. The miners exchanged nervous glances, whispering theories. Was this an ancient burial? A lost traveler? Someone from the past who never should have been there? One of them, braver than the rest, reached out a hand. The moment his fingers brushed the fabric, something happened. A deep, resonating hum filled the chamber, vibrating through the walls. The lights flickered. And then, as suddenly as it started, everything went silent. They scrambled back, hearts pounding. Was it just their imagination? A trick of the underground air pressure? Or had they awakened something that was never meant to be disturbed? Panic spread to the group as they stumbled away from the coffin, their breaths quick and uneven. No one spoke for a moment. The hum was gone, but the feeling in the air remained thick, charged, like a storm was about to break. One of the miners, a man named Luis, swallowed hard and forced a nervous laugh. "All right, that was weird," he muttered, trying to shake off the unease. But no one laughed with him. Then the foreman, Jackson, did what foremen do, took control. "It's just old air escaping, pressure shift or something," he said, though his voice lacked confidence. "We should document this, get some experts down here." But no one moved. Their eyes stayed locked on the figure inside the coffin. It wasn't just the unnatural preservation that unsettled them. It was something else. Something about the way the body rested, too perfect, too still, as if waiting. The face was calm, peaceful even, but the fingers, those fingers, looked like they had been gripping something, holding on to it for dear life. But there was nothing in their hands. Then the lights flickered again. Not a quick buzz, not a harmless blink. This time they went out completely. Total darkness swallowed the chamber. Someone cursed under their breath, the sound barely a whisper in the thick silence. The only thing they could hear was their own breathing, fast and uneven. Someone fumbled with their headlamp, and after a few 10 seconds, a beam of light cut through the blackness. The coffin was still there, the figure still unmoving. But something felt different. Luis was the first to notice. "Where's his hand?" he whispered, voice tight with fear. Jackson swung his own light toward the coffin, his stomach twisting. Luis was right. The figure's hand. It had been resting over its chest just moments ago. Now it lay by its side. No one had touched it. No one had moved it. A cold sweat broke out across Jackson's back. "We're sealing this place off," he said, his voice sharp. "Now!" No one argued. No one even hesitated. The air in the chamber felt wrong, heavy, pressing against their chest like it was alive. Jackson grabbed the radio clip to his belt, but before he could call it in, the signal cut out, static, just a low, crackling hiss. He tried again. Nothing. Luis took a shaky step back. "We shouldn't be here." His voice barely made it past his throat. One of the newer guys, Corey, exhaled sharply. "Man, this is messed up." The hand moved. "We all saw it, right?" His breathing was fast, panicked. No one responded. They didn't need to. They had all seen the same thing. Then a sound, faint but undeniable. A soft creak, like the shifting of weight against metal. Jackson snapped his head toward the coffin. He didn't want to look. Every instinct screamed at him to turn and run, to get his crew the hell out of there. But he had to see. The figure's eyes were open. Jackson's stomach dropped. The breath left his lungs in a sharp, silent gasp. The others saw it too. Luis, Corey, every man in that chamber. No one moved. No one even breathed. The eyes weren't human. Not fully. Too clear, too sharp, too knowing. They stared straight ahead, unfocused yet aware. Then the fingers twitched. A loud crash shattered the silence. Corey had dropped his flashlight, the clatter echoing like a gunshot in the tight space. And that tiny, accidental movement was enough to break whatever thin thread was holding the group together. Go! Jackson barked. He didn't care about protocol anymore. Didn't care about explanations. They needed to leave. The men scrambled, boots scraping against stone as they rushed for the tunnel. The lights flickered again, dimming as if something was sucking the energy straight from the air. Luis swore under his breath. Corey was panting. The tunnel had never felt this long before. Then, from behind them, another sound, soft at first, the rustling of fabric, the scrape of something shifting against metal. Then louder, a deep, slow inhale. Something inside that coffin had just taken a breath. No one looked back. No one wanted to see what was happening behind them. The only thing that mattered was getting out, getting as far from that coffin as possible. Jackson shoved Corey forward as the younger man stumbled, his breathing ragged. The tunnel ahead felt endless, stretching on forever, the darkness behind him feeling closer with every step. Then another sound, a deep, low exhale, slow, controlled, like something waking up for the first time in centuries. Luis choked out a curse. It's breathing. It's breathing. Tell me I'm hearing things, man. No one answered. Jackson could feel his own pulse in his throat. His legs burned, but he didn't slow down. The exit was close now. Just a few more feet, just around that last bend. The lights cut out completely. Pure, suffocating blackness swallowed them whole. Someone let out a strangled yell. Boots scraped against stone. Someone tripped, hit the ground hard. And then movement. Not from them. From behind. It wasn't loud. It wasn't rushed. Just deliberate, slow footsteps. One after another. Corey was scrambling back to his feet, gasping. It's coming. It's walking. Jackson grabbed his arm, yanking him forward. They had to move. Now. The emergency lights near the entrance flickered on, casting everything in a weak, reddish glow. The way out was right there, so close. And then Luis made the mistake of turning around. His flashlight beam cut through the darkness just enough to catch a glimpse of it. The figure from the coffin, standing, its head tilted slightly, as if adjusting to the weight of its own body. Its chest rose and fell in steady breaths. The eyes, those same unnatural eyes, locked onto Luis. Unblinking. Luis didn't scream. He couldn't. He just ran. Luis bolted, legs moving before his mind could even process what he had seen. The others were right behind him, feet pounding against the stone floor, breath coming in short, frantic gasps. The red emergency lights barely lit the way, casting long, twisting shadows that made everything feel even more wrong. Jackson didn't dare look back. Didn't want to know how close it was. Corey tripped again, falling hard against the tunnel wall. Get up! Get up! Luis screamed, grabbing his arm and yanking him forward. Corey's hand scrambled against the dirt, his eyes wild. It's oh, God! His voice broke as he glanced back. Jackson didn't need to see it to know. The air felt different, charged, electric, like the very space around them was shifting. Whatever had been inside that coffin wasn't just awake. It was moving. The tunnel exit was in sight now, just a few feet away. Luis was the first to break through, stumbling into the open, gasping in the cool underground air. Jackson shoved Corey forward, practically throwing him out. He turned back for just a second, just long enough to make sure everyone was out. And then the lights inside the tunnel exploded. Glass shattered. Sparks flew. The whole entrance was swallowed in darkness again, as if something had reached out and snuffed out every last bit of power. Jackson staggered back, shielding his face from the sudden burst of heat. The mine groaned, the walls seeming to vibrate, the ground shifting beneath their feet. Corey was crying, hands on his knees, barely able to breathe. Luis was pacing, hands in his hair, muttering to himself. No, man, this isn't real, this isn't. Jackson didn't let them spiral. We have to seal it. Now! His voice was sharp, leaving no room for argument. Louis snapped his head up. What? You want to go back in there? Jackson didn't answer. He was already moving, grabbing the emergency controls near the mine entrance. The heavy metal doors, built for cave-ins and collapses, were meant to lock down the tunnels in case of emergencies. He didn't know if it would do anything. Didn't know if any of this even made sense. But he knew one thing. That thing couldn't be allowed to leave. He slammed the switch. The ground rumbled as the reinforced doors groaned to life, sliding down inch by inch. Dust and debris shook loose from the walls. The tunnel was closing. And then, just before the doors fully shut, something moved in the dark. Not running, not rushing, just standing there, watching. The last thing Jackson saw before the doors sealed completely was those eyes, still locked onto his, unblinking,